I'm here.
Thank you, my sister. Every time we do this, it's like we reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm using two different things. I was getting the information off of my phone to put on my book, my iPad. So,
Excellent. So, listen, I wanted you to know because I don't think I ever shared this with you, but the last time we did a podcast and we had a conversation, that episode so far is the most played episode in my podcast series.
because it was real. It was so real. It was so I'm serious. I hear I hear sometimes my husband has it on cuz Spotify comes up and this comes up on Spotify
Mm-hmm.
and he's like playing it. I'm like that's us. But we sound so real. It was real. That's all I can tell you.
Woo! So hopefully we are going to
We'll have
create
another like that. Yes. Yes.
exactly create more magic just like that. So
Mm.
again, I just want to thank you, my sister. This is my sister girl, Deb, who lives in South Carolina. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the moment that we find ourselves in. And so we're going to do something a little different here. So hopefully those of you who are listening will bear with us as we try to do something a little different to try to engage those that listen, that will tell other people to listen, so that the time that we find ourselves in, we can mobilize and do what we need to do. So I want to thank you again, my sister girl, for being, as usual, a willing guinea pig participant in my world as I try to figure out ways to do. We collaborate, I collaborate with other people as we try to become the best versions of who we can possibly be.
Cool.
So, what I would like to first do is share that, yes, I was probably one of not many people that I know among my friends and acquaintances who took a hit. And what I mean by taking a hit is that I watched not just the Democratic National Convention, but I also watched the Republican National Convention. And I totally get while people were not like, wanting to listen,
I really
subject
couldn't take
themselves,
anymore.
have that be in their energy field as part of their spirit, the whole nine yards. But the world
Right.
in which I live, I say knowledge is power, and you got
Yes.
to see and hear so you know what tools you need to equip yourself. So,
Mm.
what I'm going to do first is read something that when I Googled the question, how many false, misleading, or outright lies the current president had told, this is what came up. The Washington Post and or the fact checkers database says that as of July 13, 2020, more than 20,000 false or misleading claims had been spoken.
Mm.
As of So what that translates into is, on the average, Trump tells 12 lies a day.
Mm.
And so for the first 1,267 days, that translated to a total of 20,055 lies that he has told, his minions. But I think this deals specifically with him. So, with that said, the first thing that kind of struck me as I watched the Republican convention was the first night where we had the couple
Oh,
who,
the shotgun
the
couple. Yes.
shotgun couple. Yes, girl.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so that was the tone that they wanted to set. But let's
Right.
back it up a little bit and let's go back to like 2016,
Mm.
where Donald Trump, when he was running for president, his message was, I alone can fix it. Okay.
I know that's right. And I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for him to fix the pandemic. I'm waiting for him to fix the election because I want to see it to believe it because I have my own conspiracy theories and I want to see him fix America right now in the last 60 something days left before the election because he has done nothing up until this point but create havoc and chaos.
Okay, so hold that thought. And so then from that moment on, each night became for me sort of a surreal exercise in
Mm-hmm. Because they trying to make you seem like, your Biden's America is going to be like this. But we're talking about right now today. And this is what's happening on your watch, Donald Trump. And, that's the part they want to, I don't know, dismiss. Because nobody's talking about 180 plus thousand people dead from corona, which was supposed to end in April. And we were supposed to go to church for Easter.
well, that's true because I think part of the strategy that they're using is they want people to forget that indeed
Hmm.
we are suffering
Mm.
a
How do you forget that they did not vote for a second stimulus and people cannot pay their rent, their mortgages, they don't have jobs to go back to, they don't have, you know, they gave billions to the rich, the top 1%, but refused to give money to the masses. It's ridiculous.
and so it is. And so then we come to, for me, the hypocrisy that
Mm.
represents the Republican Party is
True
is
that. True that.
is
Mm-hmm.
words cannot even express, but I'm gonna try to use my voice and activate
Okay.
my throat chakra and see if I can't share a little bit
Mm.
about some
Go ahead.
observations. Okay.
Go ahead.
So by the final night of the convention,
Mm.
we were in front of the people's house, the White
Mm.
House,
Mm.
the house that was built for free with the blood, sweat, tears, and labors of our descendants. And for
Slaves.
those of you that are listening, I'm talking about we, those of us who were descendant from slaves who were brought
Yeah.
here against their will. Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit of background. There is there is supposedly as a check and balance something called the Hatch Act of
Mm.
1939.
Mm.
And so what I try to do is I try to make information available and try to direct people where they can, yes, because part of what we have to do, and it is more important now than ever, is you have to use your brain and you have
Mm.
to do research, you have to educate. So I'm just sharing, I'm just trying to point you in the right direction so you can get more information. But essentially the Hatch Act of 1939, also known as an act to prevent pernicious political activities, is a federal law which prohibits all employees in the executive branch of the federal government, except the president and vice president, from engaging in some forms of political activity. So essentially, what we have is we had the Secretary of State, uh, Michael Pompeo, using his position to communicate a political message. That's a
From
violation.
from Jerusalem, right?
From
Was he the
Jerusalem.
one from Jerusalem?
Yes, he was the one from Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
have the president, and actually the night before the president spoke, we had the first lady, Melania Trump,
Right.
use the Rose
The Rose Garden.
Garden,
Right.
which the Rose Garden, she took it upon herself to,
Renovate.
we could call it renovate. That's a kind way, sister, of saying what she
Mm.
did. But in any event, she gave a speech from the Rose Garden.
Mm-hmm.
So the final night, we have the White House being used as this huge political prop where
Mm-hmm.
the final night he has, paraded his entire family out to attest
Mm-hmm.
to his good character, to his empathy, to his compassion. The night
Mm.
before, we had trotted out um, various people of color.
Mm.
The night before that, we had engaged in several executive orders, one being where he had a naturalization ceremony
Which was illegal, right?
with
Uh, They
individuals
didn't have any idea.
with that's true, with individuals who, number one, I just want to point out for the listening audience in case you didn't pick up on it, these were individuals from countries and or continents that in the past our president had referred to them as being, quote, from shithole countries. Okay.
Mm.
Part two of that was that at the time they were invited to the White House and that particular segment was taped, they were unaware it was going to be used during the Republican National Convention. And that again happened, as we since have discovered, with some tenants of buildings or
Right,
properties in New York,
right.
in New York,
Right.
where again they were unaware that their words that they were being filmed and that it was going to be part of the Republican National Convention.
And pro Trump.
That
Don't get that twisted. They were not pro Trump, and they twisted their views and their words to make it seem like they were pro Trump.
that is absolutely correct. So I'm going to share a few more phrases that the president has spoken, and then we're going to get into the fun part of hopefully what we're going to do here.
All
So
right.
I believe after the death of George Floyd, the president stated, when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Right.
And so we also have, um, I forget what day this was this week, a legendary coach, Doc Rivers.
Oh, Holtz, Lou Holtz,
Well, before
from
we,
South Carolina. He formerly from University of South Carolina.
okay, so you want to talk about that and then I'll talk about what Doc
No, I
Rivers
don't
said?
want to talk about that because he's always been racist. He's still racist, and he's not there in South Carolina anymore.
So
But he was there.
you're talking about one of the speakers they paraded out to attest to their personal thoughts and feelings about Trump, how he is not the person he has shown himself to be for the past 4 years, but this is someone they know in a more intimate manner, and we should not believe what we have seen him nor his family do in the past 4 years, but we should believe these individuals who have been paraded
Correct.
before us, in front of national audiences, and
Correct.
believe like a leopard he has changed his spots.
Correct.
Okay, so Doc Rivers, who is a coach, I want to say
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was Friday or Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
made the statement as a result of what had occurred at the Republican National Convention. He said
Right.
that the Republicans or Donald Trump were spewing fear. We're the ones
Mm-hmm.
getting killed and shot. We've been, um, being shot. All you keep hearing about is the fear. It's amazing why we keep loving this country and it doesn't love us back.
Right.
Um, so for me, because I watched both of the conventions, it was kind of sort of like watching a tale of two Americas. Okay, one America where we were trying to highlight truth, fairness, facts, justice, liberty, equality, compassion, and empathy, just to name a few of what I saw in everyday people. These were everyday people, that the Democratic National Convention, which was a virtual convention almost in its totality. So they were not, you know, there were no people like on some of the nights, particularly the last two nights of the Republican convention when Melania spoke, and there were, I forget what the numbers were, how many people had been invited to hear her speech in the Rose Garden, where there were no masks, there was no social distancing. And then when
Right.
Trump accepted the Republican nomination and there were over 1,000 people, there
Right.
were no masks, there was no social
Just count two
distancing.
weeks. Just count 2 weeks. That's it.
And we
Two
will do
weeks.
that. And so then the Republican Party, what I got from their show was that they were showcasing division, lies, nepotism, narcissism, authoritarianism, surrealism.
Mm-hmm.
And so just the other day, as more facts have come out about how people apparently were used, they were unaware their images, their likenesses, their words were going to be used as part of essentially the propaganda that was being perpetrated by the Republican
Mm-hmm.
National Convention.
Right.
And as they came under fire for lack of social distances and their failure to wear masks, a White House official has been quoted as saying, everybody is going to catch this anyway.
Right. That's the thought.
That is
Mm-hmm.
the thought. So,
Mm-hmm.
this from a president who has repeatedly, when asked, does he believe he has any responsibility?
Nope. He has none.
He has none. He has said, nope, he accepts no responsibility.
Responsibility.
So this led me to, I watch Michael Smerconish, who was a commentator on CNN.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday he posed a couple of questions. And one of the questions he posed was whether or not the brazen lack of social distancing by the Trump administration is part of, quote, their strategy. And then he posed a second question in which he asked the viewers to answer the question whether they thought COVID-19 or which one, COVID-19 or civil unrest, which would have the greatest impact on the upcoming election. And interestingly enough, the people who responded to the survey said,
Civil unrest.
actually, they said COVID-19.
Really? I'm shocked.
Okay. So now, with all that said, we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. And I did a podcast on Friday the 28th. At the time I did the podcast, I did not know that
The
Ava,
significance.
the significance that Ava DuVernay was going to be debuting on OWN a short film in which she has called together historical events in the African American community, which have all occurred on August the 25th. I mean, the 28th. So I'm just going to
28th. Mm-hmm.
thank you, sis, for correcting me. Just share very briefly with the audience what those events were. And you can go on Facebook, you can go to OWN Network. You may still be able to find the link if you want to view this for yourself. So, first, there was in 1833 in England when they enacted what essentially was their version of the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed Black slaves in England, and it was the precursor to our version of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence.
No, Emancipation Proclamation.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And then there was the killing, the brutal killing of Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the first march on Washington, which occurred in
Right.
1963.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the company that was founded by Berry Gordy, which became Motown. They had their first hit, "Please, Mr. Postman," sung by the Marvelettes, which that was 1961. Then we had Hurricane Katrina, 2005. Then we had Barack Obama accepting the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. That was 2008. And then we had, regrettably, the death of Chadwick Boseman, who's an African American actor who has played numerous roles chronicling events in Black history. Like he played James Brown, Jackie Robinson, Thurgood
Thurgood Marshall.
Marshall, and then
Mm-hmm.
of course he was our own what
Black Panther, King T'Challa.
of Wakanda. There you go, boo.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I like to think that every day we should learn something. So one night of the Republican convention, they kept using the phrase cancel culture. And I didn't really
Oh,
know,
propaganda, propaganda,
but I
propaganda.
didn't really know what that meant. So what I
Mm.
decided to do is to educate myself. And so I came up with these different interpretations for what cancel culture is.
All right.
It's withdrawing support or canceling public figures and companies after they have done or said something considered objectionable or offending. In other words, it's kind of like a group shaming via social media.
So, to my understanding, then, if you don't roll with the president, you're in this culture, cancel culture. Is that? Am I
Okay, I'm
correct in
sorry.
that?
There was a call that was trying to come through, which I declined. So if you could repeat what you were saying, I'm sorry.
So I said, if you don't roll with the president, and any way he seems fit, then you're part of the cancel culture. Is that not correct?
Well, they were using the Republican convention as a means of, yes, communicating, I believe, a message that,
Mm-hmm.
yes, spoke to cancel culture. But then there was this other definition that spoke about it was pop culture's corrective for a sense of powerlessness that many people feel. It says the debate around cancel culture is partly about how we treat each other and partly about frustration with the lack of real consequences for powerful people. So, bottom
Ah,
line, it has been a voice for those who've had no voice. Okay. Which, if you think about it, especially lately, like, say, for instance, I'm going to give you an example of
oh,
what.
I got it.
Okay. So, for those that are listening, I'm going to give you an example of how Trump tried to use it, kind of sort of for his benefit.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, Firestone, which is a
Mm-mm.
company that produces
Mm-mm.
tires.
No, not Firestone. Mm-mm. Goodyear.
Goodyear. Thank you. What is wrong with my sister girl? It's like my thoughts
That's
is.
why I'm here, babe. That's
Thank
why
you.
I'm here.
Thank
Keep it
you.
moving.
So Goodyear, yes, Goodyear, which
Mm-hmm.
produces tires.
Right. American company.
Thank
Right.
you. Had it became known somehow that they had issued some kind of company regulation that its
Mm-hmm.
employees, I believe, could not wear "Make America Great" hats, paraphernalia, whatever the case might be. But in fact, they thought it was okay that they could, in fact, wear other
Black
type.
Lives Matter.
That,
Yeah.
thank you, Black Lives Matter. So the
Mm-hmm.
president then took it upon himself
To shame them. Mm-hmm.
to call upon his base to
Mm-hmm.
boycott this
Mm-hmm.
company, which is interesting because all the tires on all of the presidential vehicles have what kind of
Right.
tires on them?
Goodyear.
Okay. So I'm just like,
Hmm.
it's sort of unbelievable to me that in the world in which he lives and the world in which his followers live, we can all get along if we can all
Do what
upheld
he wants you
him.
to do.
Thank
There you
you.
go.
Thank you. But if you dare dissent
Hmm.
or disagree,
Right.
then, you know,
You get canceled out
thank
by
you.
any means necessary. There
Thank
you go.
you. Thank
Hmm.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm.
So
Well, I just want to kind of give you a break because you've been talking for a minute,
I have been.
but I want to, you know, take it a step further and get people to vote. I want you to go out of your way to help somebody get their vote to the voting, station, or take somebody to vote that day. If you're able, help somebody to fill out their absentee ballot. If they're an older person and maybe don't know how to do it, get it in the mail. We already know that the mail has been slowed significantly enough that your ballot may not get back in time. So, you get it and you send it the next morning. That may be about the only way. And I've been told some things. I've been told that you need to put a stamp on it, and then it will be first class mail with the stamp that you put on it, and it will go faster. I've also been told, some states have the little, mailboxes that are just for the ballots. And so you have to find out in your state what provisions they have made for, absentee ballots and the like. Okay, so just be serious. Do you know any teenagers that are turning or have turned 18? Talk to them. Get them to vote. This is the rest of our lives. If the federal judiciary gets any more radical, I don't know what kind of world we're going to have. Because right now, the judges that have been selected by Trump are so to the left. um, the Attorney General, Barr, so to the left, will do anything, and you've seen it, that the president wants. So I just need everyone to vote
And
like your life depended on it, because it does.
yes, it does, because we do remember him also, in his attempt to appeal to Black people,
Mm,
saying to us,
he the
voting for
best.
him, what do you have to lose, right?
No, don't forget this one. He's done more for black people than any other president. Eh, wrong.
It can be rather depressing. Um,
Yeah.
but you know what? We are indeed living in interesting times. And so what I
Mm,
want to talk about briefly is the importance of popular culture and how popular culture plays into all of this, and the recent actions by um, the NBA.
okay.
So I live in Orlando, and that is where we have ESPN, and you've heard of the so-called bubble.
Right. The bubble is there.
The bubble is there.
Disney.
That's
Mm-hmm.
correct. And so we had all of these, generally men of color,
Mm-hmm.
who, in order to do what they love to do, which is play basketball, came to an agreement with the various teams in the league that they would allow themselves to be removed from family and friends and come to this environment where everybody is getting tested regularly. where, it would be safe for them to play basketball. Okay. But the flip side of that is that, they've been away from their family, friends, and we know during this time where people have not been able to, perhaps as much as we have in the past, people aren't able to be with family, friends. They're not able to be as social as they have been in the past because, we have to engage in social distancing and all this other
Wearing
stuff.
masks. Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Washing hands.
that is correct, which is kind of interesting that you mean we had to have a pandemic and
To
we
tell you to wash your hands. That's
thank
right.
you. I mean, let's get
Mm-hmm.
real. Can we get real, America, please? But
Mm.
in any event, in today's Orlando Sentinel, there was an editorial that was written. And in the editorial, it spoke about the important role that sports has played in
Right.
amplifying calls for social justice. And I'm referencing back to like the Olympics years ago
Right. Right.
when
He did
track stars.
the black salute. Right.
Correct.
Hmm.
And so in this
And they
article,
made them go home without their gold medal.
that's right, they stripped them the following
Hmm.
day of their
Hmm.
medals that they had earned, because
Right.
the thought was, how
Mm.
dare they call attention to
Mm.
something that was going on in the United States. And what is interesting is what is going on in the United States today
Same.
is what is
Same
going
thing.
on throughout the world. So this is indeed
Same.
a worldwide awakening, if you will. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the article spoke about how in
Because
2016,
just to interrupt you for a second,
mhm,
Pam, because when the world was colonized, when the world was colonized, not
correct.
just America. So we have been under the foot of this forever, and it's time for the reckoning.
Yes, I would agree with that. And particularly in the United States, where we know institutional racism exists at all levels.
Except for Nikki Haley, she doesn't know anything about racism, but she changed her name from her Indian name to Nikki Haley.
That would be correct. And as one of the speakers at the Republican convention,
Mm-hmm.
um, she sort
Said
of
that there
touched
was
on it, but
no
didn't really touch on it when she spoke about the role she had played in the removal of a divisive symbol of racism. And so, because you are from South Carolina, and because I
mm,
know what she was speaking to and about, although she didn't plainly state it, we're going to
yeah,
plainly state it, that was the removal
of the
of the
Confederate
Confederate
flag.
flag in the
Yes.
state of South Carolina, which is
In
kind of
the state
interesting.
on the state house, yes.
That is correct. And because we know that the representative, Congressman Clyburn, essentially it was South Carolina that became the wind beneath Joe Biden's wings, if you will,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
propelled him to where we are. That and the black women who came out in support, as
Yeah.
well as the subsequent him choosing Kamala Harris to be his vice
Yes.
presidential
Yes.
nominee. So
Yes.
all of these things are coming together for a reason. But in the article which appeared in today's Sentinel, it was interesting that this columnist noted, and other people have now also commented on how in the year 2016, when Colin Kaepernick took a knee,
Mm-hmm.
this was peaceful. This was
Yeah,
peaceful.
it
He
was.
took a knee to
Right.
call attention to the
Right.
injustices that were occurring in the
Right.
United States. And he was branded as being unpatriotic. The
Right.
president got involved. I mean, all of this hoopla, okay?
Right.
And so during that same time, I had the great honor of
Mm-hmm.
being on the advisory opinion board of our local newspaper, the Orlando Sentinel. And I wrote articles about Colin Kaepernick. And those that are listening, if they wish to read those articles, they can Google my full name, Pamela Bussey, and Orlando Sentinel, and those articles will come up. But the article said in 2019, there were only 27 days in which a police officer didn't kill someone.
Mm, mm,
Let's
mm.
let that sink in.
Whew.
2019, only 27 days in which a police officer didn't kill someone.
Wow. So let's
54.
talk. Can I
Mhm.
stop? Can I step in there?
Yes.
Because I want to talk a little bit about the militias and the nationalists, the white nationalists that have been entrenched in the police
Yes.
departments, which is evident now, as in Kenosha. Let me
Yes.
give you my example. The little white boy, 17, mama drove him across state lines, AK 47, killed two people, wounded one, walking down the street like, hey, no problem. I am here because I'm taking care of this property. He didn't even know who the owners were. But this is the kind of stuff. Oh, and by the way, the police department didn't even pick him up the whole day. He walking down the street like nothing happened.
Yes.
They're trying to turn this around, spin it, that, oh, if the people weren't in the streets as protesting, which is our God-given right to peacefully protest,
Right. Our
and
First Amendment right to do so.
it was a
Absolutely.
peaceful protest, but if they weren't there peacefully protesting, then they wouldn't have gotten killed. No. But I want you to also know his father is on the police force in Kenosha. This child is being raised to be a what? White nationalist, just like Dylan Ruth. Now, these not everybody on the police force and not every police force, but you've got to know they are there. They came to Charlottesville, they came to Columbia and tried to make it seem like the Black Lives Matter protesters were the ones doing the crime, and they weren't. we
Right.
were we were protesting peacefully, and they came in with water bottles filled with stuff, throwing stuff, and that's when it became. But they had little people scattered all around. I know you've heard about the persons in the Hawaiian shirts, and so they
Yes.
had. It was strategic. It was strategic
Yes.
what they were doing.
That is true. And that's part of what people have to understand, that there's a certain segment of the population that,
Mm,
while people of all races, color, creeds, and religions have exercised their First Amendment rights to peaceful protest and assembly, there have
yes.
been those individuals who deliberately came to cities where peaceful protests were being held
Held.
and
That's right.
engaged in illegal acts, looting, etc., etc. And so that has clearly been documented. So
Yes.
yes, we do have these two different narratives that are
Mm,
playing out, and that's going back to the theme of the Republican convention, which was that President Trump is now using what he believes to be tried and true themes of law and order
right.
in an effort to firstly firstly rewrite the narrative. And the
Mm,
narrative is that what is going on during his watch, during his presidency, but he's
mm.
trying to, if you will, shift the blame and make it seem that if Biden and Harris are elected, they are the ones that are standing for, social unrest, dissension,
Well, look,
divisiveness, etc., etc.
I just want to say I feel that, I understand that, but I also want to get back to voting. I really believe, and this is my theory, my conspiracy theory, people, so understand this is just Deborah's, but them pushing for Kanye West to be a candidate, the people that vote Republican, they don't have no problem with them. But the people voting Democratic, if you only take off from the top a few votes from these swing states, which is what happened in 2016,
Yes.
went to this candidate, third party candidate Land. I think her name was Land. You know, it nobody saw it. Nobody really, they were like, "Oh, okay, well, all right." But it was deliberate, and that's why she lost. Okay?
Correct. So if you add to that
So
the
you got
attempts,
Kanye now taking the place of Land. So we have to get those votes in. And in some of these swing states, you've got to be careful about the ballot when you go in and do your voting, because those machines are going to be changed over by Russia. So again, my
well,
conspiracy theory,
I
people.
I'm with you, sis, and I forget there was the Green Party nominee, and then there was also a Libertarian Party that,
I think it was the Libertarian.
and I don't remember the name, so don't hold
Mm-hmm.
us to the precise name. But if you Google who the Green Party uh, candidates were and the Libertarian parties, those are the people who effectively siphoned votes off from Hillary Clinton during the most recent election we had in 2016. But I just wanted to share real quickly the rest of these statistics, and then share with people that may not know what happened subsequently to the professional athletes of the NBA taking a stand. So the article further says that 54% of those killed were people of color, while whites comprise 73% of our population. Okay. America has 5% of the world's prison population, but 25% of the world's prison population. A recent Nielsen study indicates that more than 70% of sports fans support athlete activism and believe teams and leagues should support athlete protests and initiatives on race. 70% believe teams and leagues should develop marketing campaigns that support diversity, and 77% believe brands are more powerful when they partner with sports organizations to drive social change. So, what happened is the NBA playoffs are currently occurring, and the Milwaukee Bucks decided to, as a team, to use their platform and say, as a result of what had occurred in Kenosha, they were not going to play. I believe it was game 5 or 4, not certain. But that action had the snowball effect of all of the teams in the NBA and other sport franchises also getting on board and saying, you know what? We're not going to play any games either. So to me, this represents the power of athletes in sports who use their collective strength, and most of the players are indeed Black people. And as a result, as a result, they were able to broker an agreement, if you will, where the various NBA franchises are going to use their arenas as
Mm-hmm.
places where people can come and vote, because the other insidious part of what has been going on here
Yeah,
has
they're
been
closing up all the places,
voter
all the voting.
suppression by closing
Mm-hmm.
down places where, especially in minority communities where either people lack transportation or whatever the case might be, or in rural areas, by
Right.
closing these places down. And especially during this time of the virus where people may not want to put their lives at risk, in order to
Mm.
cast a vote, which is why, what they've been doing with the U.S. Postal Service, another part of their insidious plan. And it's just so
Mm.
much going on that, if people are not paying attention, we'll be on November the 4th asking the question, what the hell
What
happened?
happened? What
So your
happened?
your your query or your plea for voting is so apropos. So now what I'm going to do is, we're going to get to the fun part. So
45 minutes. Mm-hmm.
so the fun part for me, as I was thinking about how we were going to have this conversation and what was going to be a little different, and then also tie it into popular culture, was to come up with names of either movies, TV shows, books, or songs that either captured what has been going on during the year 2020, or in my mind, it's been really a reflection of what's been going on for the past 20 years since the year 2000. So I have my list. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to shed some
Oh
light?
no, go first.
Okay, so I came up with these books or TV shows or movies to capsulize my thoughts about the year 2020 or the past 20 years. A Handmaiden's Tale,
Yes.
Game of Thrones, and their
Mm-hmm.
phrase "winter is coming," and there's more on that phrase that I'm going to share when I get through my list.
Mm.
Pandemic. How apt is that? Pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
An Inconvenient Truth.
Mm.
Mad Max.
Yeah.
Contagion. The
Mm-hmm.
Virus.
Mm-hmm.
Outbreak. 12
Oh yeah.
Monkeys.
Oh
Chernobyl.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
Kingdom. Hot
Okay.
Zone. Superman Dawn of Justice.
Mm.
Apocalypse.
Mm.
Citizen Kane. A Tale
Okay.
of Two Cities. To Kill a
Mm.
Mockingbird.
Mm-hmm.
Apprentice. Celebrity
Mm-hmm.
Apprentice. The Hate
Mm.
You Give.
Oh.
13th Amendment. And now we can add numerous Marvel movies, but particularly in honor of Chadwick, I want to add what? Black
Black
Panther.
Panther. Okay, that sounds good. I have a few. You've gotten a lot of mine,
And so, but you can say them again, because if we got the same ones on the list, it just means great minds think alike,
but
sis.
well, no. But one of the ones that I feel, you know, um, I like music, so I'm going to give you some music titles.
Okay.
Winter in America,
Ooh.
Gil Scott Heron. Okay. Um, um, I didn't write mine down, Pam, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
but but
Whatever comes
but
to your
when I
mind,
come
and
out with
people who
Winter
are
in America,
listening.
you know I'm bad, right?
Mhm. Well, there were some I didn't write down too, like Marvin Gaye, What's Going On.
What's going on?
There you
Yes.
go. I mean, there's
Yes.
a whole
Yes.
slew of
Yes.
black Nina Simone. Any Nina Simone will do.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
this is what
Yes.
people have to understand, the role that music has played in protests. Okay?
Yes.
Stevie Wonder. I mean, come on. All these people have contributed to the backdrop of political protest. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
And so, going back to the Game of Thrones now, I did not watch the Game of Thrones.
Me either. I have no idea about Game of Thrones.
However, I am familiar with the phrase "winter is coming." So
Mm.
I googled it, and this is what pardon me, it says "winter is coming" was the motto of House of Stark, one of the great houses of Westeros. The meaning behind these words is one of warning and constant vigilance. The
Mm-hmm.
Starks, being the lords of the North, they strive to always be prepared for the coming of winter, which hits their lands the hardest. And so then I found another reference. It was website called The Take. And what
Mm.
it said is author George R. Martin, creator of the book series upon which the show is based, explains there's a deeper metaphorical meaning, okay, expressing the sentiment that dark periods occur in your life. Even if things
Mm.
are currently going well in your world, that represents summer, this won't last forever.
No, it won't. And we
There,
are in the darkest of
exactly,
night now.
there will eventually come
Woo.
a dark period, a coldness, when
This is
events
it.
turn against us. That represents winter.
Mm-hmm.
This metaphorical interpretation reflects the underlying message of the entire show, as nobody is ever safe or comfortable for too long.
Mm. I found one more for you.
I'm ready.
Modern Family.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
so people, this is the bottom line. As my sister has said, it is not an overstatement to say these are perilous times,
Perilous.
fraught with danger for
Yes.
democracy, for
Yes.
for a changing world. Things are not going to be the way they were pre-COVID-19. Let me say that again. Things
Correct.
are not going to be the same. We are faced with a time, a unique time, where individually and collectively we get to
Yes.
decide how we want to show up, how you want to show up individually in your life, show up for your family, show up for your community, how we want to show up as American citizens, how we want to show up as African American citizens, how we want to show up as citizens of the world. This is
Yes.
not just a United States of America scenario, okay?
Nope.
This is a worldwide. How do you want to show up? How do you want to be?
Correct.
How do you want to, moving forward, be the change you want to see? So that means
Exactly.
you got to do what you got to do. Everybody has a gift. We all have talents. For some of
That's
us,
right.
Deb and I, when we were younger, we did the marching. Okay, we've been there. We done that. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
At this point in my life, and no doubt at this point in Deb's life, we have other life skills and tools in the toolkit that we can
Yes.
use to try to share
Yes.
our individual and collective wisdom. This
Yes.
podcast, Ancestral Muses, is one way I do that, by talking to people I know who can bring their perspectives to bear so that we can all learn from each other and learn together about what we, the people, and just a little side note, we both grew up in Philly, which, let's get it real, city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, which is where the whole democratic experiment began, okay, with the drafting of the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration
Woo.
of Independence, and Betsy Ross sewed the first U.S. flag in Independence Mall, and all that other good stuff that you can Google, you can read about the history, okay.
Mm.
It doesn't detract from the fact that the United States of America is a country of immigrants, okay?
Absolutely. Nothing but.
Some
Nothing but
some who
immigrants.
came here willingly,
Except for the Native Americans.
that would be true. And
That is it.
they
Everybody else is immigrants.
that is so true, and they too are finding their voice, okay? They've
Yes.
always been politically active, but
Well, they were the last to get the right to vote. They got the right to vote after black women. Okay?
you
So
know,
no, that's a quiet fact. but check it out.
Well, I know you at one point you did a lot of research because you did a presentation
Yes.
for your church. So
Yes.
yes, you
Yes.
have up to date data, and thank you for sharing that, sis. So again,
Mm-hmm.
the bottom line is we can't be like sheep being led to slaughter people.
No.
You gotta you gotta use your brains, okay?
Right.
You,
And get involved. Call the Biden Harris campaign and see what you can do to help. You know, they may just want you to call some folks and talk, or they may want you to do some foot stuff, whatever they want you to do. Be available, because this is going to be the hardest election in our lifetime and in many lifetimes. Okay?
I agree.
Because we are fighting big evil.
We are.
Okay?
We
Power in high places.
Indeed. And so I just want to end on this thought that while we're fighting the good fight, we have to
Mm-hmm.
also take time to take care of
Yes,
ourselves, be that
absolutely.
spiritually, mentally, and physically. Take time out to be quiet, to be still, to meditate, to read whatever good words, inspiration you want to read, okay? Listen to
Mm-hmm.
music, okay?
Yeah.
Listen to music. If you're able to get out in nature, if you can walk, if you can just go sit outside, do what you have got to do so that your mind can be clear, so that your spirit will hopefully lead you to do what we need to do individually and collectively to make sure that we indeed are the change that needs to happen, not just in the United States, but in the world. So we have maybe 2 minutes left. So is there anything else, my good sister girlfriend, you would like to share?
I just don't want us to be the ball of confusion, which is my other
Oh, yes,
song.
yes, yes.
But I want us to know that, it can be a lovely day on November 3rd. Bill
Go,
Withers,
girl.
lovely. If we do the homework now,
Yes, yes.
if we follow the rules, people, you must mask up. Take care of your grandmas and grandpas. Mask up. Wash your hands and social distance. We'll make it through this.
Absolutely. And stay tuned as I will continue to try to provide different perspectives. And of course, sister girl, it goes without saying, I love you and I
I love you too.
appreciate you. And I
No
thank you
problem.
for
It was
being
fun.
willing to share your perspectives with me and with the greater world at large. Thank you.
Absolutely. Love
Love
you.
you too. And adios.
Bye.
And don't forget, for those
Mm.
that live in the United States that may get to listen to this tonight on ABC, commercial free, they're going to be sharing what?
Oh, commercial free.
Commercial free,
Black
sister
Panther.
girl. Black Panther.
Oh,
Wakanda
commercial free. I'm
forever.
gonna watch it now.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever, my
All
sister.
right. Bye.
Bye.